Welcome to Sovereign Soul Radio. Here, we cultivate conscious conversations to support those of us who are healing and awakening now. I am Ivy, a consciousness steward and holistic practitioner, and please join me in these conversations that are so necessary for our transforming human reality at this time. May we all leave these conversations differently than we came. Where we go one, we go all. And so it is. Hello, soul friends and soul family, and welcome back to another episode of the Sovereign Souls podcast. This conversation that I have for you today is so good on so many levels, okay? So welcome to a really potent, conscious conversation with an amazing soul and man that I now call my friend, Luke Jacobsma. And in this episode, we are exploring his journey through understanding, experiencing, and healing through topical steroid addiction and withdrawal. In this conversation, we explore all aspects of how topical steroid withdrawal, or TSW, affects the body, changes one's life, and what to know and what to expect of this adverse drug reaction that thousands of people around the world are going through right now. And this reaction to a drug that's prescribed and also offered over the counter has absolutely debilitating effects that last for multiple years. And for the most part, the medical industry that created it is quite fully ignoring it. So therefore, as I have experienced this in my own life for years, I am very passionate about growing public awareness and creating a platform to share these very real stories of the souls who are experiencing this. And also, it is such a common drug that people use that really we all have to understand the potential unintended consequences when we are making very small medical choices for ourselves. So this conversation is so darn good and juicy, and Luke is so soulfully articulate about this subject and his voyage through this experience. And I call it a voyage because truly it is like a long and challenging journey. But in this conversation, he brings us so fully into his heart and the wisdom and growth anchoring through him in this experience. This absolutely has to be shared. So this conversation is absolutely necessary for you to listen to if you or a loved one are currently using topical steroids, going through steroid addiction or withdrawal. But also, this conversation is for you if you have, if you're going through any illness or disease symptoms and you're desiring to know and live greater the path of healing. This conversation stimulates like so much deep wisdom in here. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this so much. It's a longer conversation, but the whole thing is there's so much incredible information coming through this man. So before we start, side note, this is my first ever podcast collaborative interview, if you will. And that means that I had some kinks to work out and you learn these things as you go. So I do apologize that the audio sounds a little bit more distant. And all related resources for this episode are in the show notes, including where you can find and connect with Luke on social media. So let's get started. I hope you enjoy. Hello, my friend Luke. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for being here with me. So that everybody knows, this is my first official guest on my podcast. So thank you so much for being with me. I am so stoked to have you here, especially because the story that you tell of your journey and what you've been through and what you are going through is so near and dear to my own heart with the way that, my life has changed in such similar ways to yours. Like, I'm so grateful that this is one of the first most important conversations that I'm going to have here. So thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Yes. So let's start. We've been talking for a couple months here because when I came across you on Instagram, instantly, the way that you share yourself and the way that you educate the public and the way that you tell your story comes across with so much candidness and so much passion that I was so inspired and am so inspired by everything that you are creating. So give our listeners here an intro to you, Luke. Who are you? What are you about? What do you love?
Oh, geez. So many questions right off the bat. Here we go.
Who are you?
So my name is Luke. I live here in Orange County, Huntington Beach to be specific. I work in the apparel industry as a fitting model. I try on clothes to make sure they fit properly. I've been doing that since 2004 and lived in Orange County for about 2.5 years, almost 3 so far. I developed TSW, unfortunately, about 6.5 months ago, and it's been the most violent, intense roller coaster of my entire life. A lot of confusion, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of isolation. And that's what brought me to start posting on Instagram. A friend of mine kind of heard about what was going on and just said, you know what, you need to put this out there because other people might be dealing with it. And I never really looked at it that way. And so that's kind of what sparked the whole, let's go post it on Instagram, which I had never anticipated doing. But the response has been great. I've met some of the best people through that and made some really strong connections with people that I never would have made otherwise. And it just showed me how many other people are out there suffering the same way I am.
Amazing. So thank you so much for being willing to actually share this publicly in so many different ways and even with me here. And so to give everybody a little bit of background, like our commonalities are that we are both humans that we were instructed and advised from medical professionals to use topical steroids on our skin, something that should be innocent and should be like a good remedy for things. However, using things as they were prescribed took us both in tremendously what would you call it? I would call it debilitating conditions that have drastically altered our lives, not just for days or weeks on end, but actually for like months and years. So this podcast episode is actually going to be the first one on topical steroid withdrawal at all, or like so far on my podcast. So you're actually everybody's introduction to what this is, because the way, again, that you've spoken about this and teach about this, I think that you are so good at explaining it. So would you break it down for people? Because, you know, most common people have no idea what TSW means. Will you walk us through that?
Yeah, of course. So from my understanding and the research that I've done, I picked up a lot of information from HitSand, YouTube, a lot of other people who have done research themselves. I can't really find a lot of clinical studies on it because it's just like so mysterious still. But basically, topical steroid withdrawal, TSW, is topical steroid withdrawal, also referred to as red skin syndrome, and some people refer to it as topical steroid addiction. Is basically, if you have any skin condition and you treat it with topical steroids, which is the cream or ointment or gel that you put on your skin to treat eczema, rosacea, acne. If you just want cleaner complexion, you use steroids for that, whether it's over the counter or prescribed. Your body can become addicted to that chemical, corticosteroids. And once your body is addicted, after using it for 2 weeks or more, that's all it takes. If you're using high strength stuff, 2 weeks is all it takes for your body to become dependent on topical steroids. If it's a lighter strength, like over the counter, it could take a little bit longer, maybe 3-4 weeks before your body actually starts becoming addicted to it. But once that happens, symptoms don't start showing, but the steroids do a great job of suppressing all the symptoms that you originally tried to hide or fix, but those eventually come out because the steroids lose their effectiveness over time. So as you're using steroids, maybe once a day, you notice the rash coming back towards the end of the day. So then you need to put it on at night. And then a couple of weeks go by, then you need to do it morning, noon, and night. And then that doesn't work. So you got to go to the doctor and get a stronger dose so you can control all the symptoms that are trying to come out, whether it's eczema, psoriasis, whatever. So once you realize your body's addicted, what do? Well, you would think the doctor would know, but most doctors, I would say 98 out of 100 don't know what to do at this point. They just keep treating you for eczema. But topical steroid withdrawal starts when you completely stop using steroids. And once that happens, every symptom that you tried to suppress, whether it was a little rash on your wrist, a little mark on your face or something, all of those symptoms that were suppressed start coming out in full force. It's like a full body attack. And then you think, oh no, it's an autoimmune disease. And my body's attacking itself because that's what all the doctors say. But it's the steroids that have taken over your bodily functions and have now, you're not applying them to your body anymore. So your body has forgotten what it's supposed to do. And it's the most excruciating, painful, itchy, burning sensation that you've ever had. It's debilitating is a great word to describe it, but I feel like it's so much worse than that.
Very, very, very well put, and thank you for explaining that so succinctly. So for you, what is the current state of affairs with your body? And then let's, deep dive into what was that like for you growing up, and did we see this coming on? But just for people to get an idea of you, Luke, right now, we're on October 11th right now. What is your current state of, like, how far are we into this? What is it like today? What is a day like in your life?
Oh boy. So I started topical steroid withdrawal on March 18th of 2019 this year. So I am just about six and a half months into it. Since the beginning, since I started topical steroid withdrawal, my body has done nothing but just evolve. I don't feel like my body's gone through a cycle yet. Many people talk about a cycle like on a weekly basis or a 2-week basis. Mine just keeps going into something different, and it hasn't quite made that loop yet. I'm hoping that it doesn't, but right now, specifically at this point in time, I'm feeling like I've got a lot of momentum happening. Like, there's still an itchiness that kind of comes every now and then, but my skin seems to be clearing up in most of the areas. There are some hot spots, specifically in my elbows, on my hand. My neck still gets pretty itchy. It doesn't limit me in terms of work, but it does limit me in terms of activities. Like, I don't have full range of motion without discomfort, major discomfort. And what I mean by that is bending my joints feels like there's a bunch of broken glass pieces in my skin. And so when you bend, it just crunches and cuts and digs. And it's just really hard to feel comfortable doing things you enjoy because it just distracts you. It's like a thorn in your side the whole time.
And that you can never get out, right? Like, do you ever have a moment's ease from this? How about this? When was the last time that you felt comfortable? Like, actually, there could be zero anything to complain about. Like, when was the last time you were comfortable in yourself, in your body, in your skin?
Jeez. Honestly?
So honestly.
Probably 2011, 2012. To be honest, because I that's when I started to develop the eczema symptoms around that time. And that's when I started using the over-the-counter steroids. But even eczema, just it just feels like something's crawling around inside your body at all times. So even if you're sitting here talking to your friends, hanging out, being social, you're still like, what? You're trying not to scratch, you're trying not to move, you're trying to focus, and then you miss what'd you say? Oh, yeah. And you gotta ask people to repeat themselves because you literally can't be present because your focus is directed to wherever that itch is going or whatever's going on. I used to describe it like I had itching powder in my blood veins. Like, it wasn't on the skin. I couldn't make the itch go away because it was deep. So
that's actually such a good way to put it. Itching powder in your blood veins. That's such a good way. I mean, for me, it's always felt like almost like the bones are itchy. Like, you need to get through all layers of skin and actually get as deep as you can, which is really an insane feeling.
Yeah.
So for you, for me growing up with, childhood eczema. So for me, eczema and those types of symptoms were a part of all the time since being so young. But for you, that's a common story for a lot of us going through TSW. However, for you, that wasn't the situation at all, right?
No.
You grew up healthy kid on a farm?
Yeah, actually.
So you should be healthy, right? If you're actually in the dirt with all the good probiotics and that.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, my parents were fortunate enough to raise me and my brothers on 16 acres of a berry farm. And so it was a you-pick berry farm. People would come out, pick their berries, pay, and then leave. And they had to run the farm, so they let us kids run around. So I was eating berries from the time I could walk, and all I was wearing was shoes and a diaper. And my parents are just like, we were in the country, we couldn't go anywhere, we're little, so they would just let us go play all day. I'd come back covered in dirt and purple berries all over. And I never had any skin issues growing up until I got to high school. And the only thing that I can remember is my armpits used to get quite sensitive with deodorant, especially antiperspirants. So that was the only thing. I just had to always kind of flow through different deodorants until I found the one that didn't bother me.
Okay. So we didn't have like any of the gut issues that some children have, because of course gut is highly linked to skin and eczema. No. So you grew up relatively healthy.
Yeah, I could eat anything I wanted. My mom raised us on a Southern diet. She was from Alabama and Kentucky, and biscuits and gravy were always a thing. Macaroni and cheese was always a thing. Like ribs, like spaghetti all the time. Like I had no issues eating anything. Spicy, sweet, salty, no problems.
Amazing. And then did we have like still childhood vaccines? Like for those of us that were born in the 80s? Like
I can only remember getting a vaccine once.
Okay.
One time.
Okay. Well, very, very good. But then, so growing up, no eczema issues until really like later in life. So when did that actually start for you? And how did that come about?
So the first sign of like itchiness kind of started in 2000, maybe early 2012.
Yeah.
And the only way I could really describe it wasn't a visual thing, but like I felt like I was allergic to my own sweat. Okay. Whenever I'd sweat, my skin would get really itchy. And it seemed like that was the only time I'd start to get itch, when I'd sweat or perspire. Okay. And that was kind of the first trigger. And I was kind of wondering what was going on. And then it started out with a little bit of a red spot behind my right knee that just was like about the size of a quarter. And it just kind of looked like a little chapped a little bit. Like it was a little red, a little chapped, a little dry. And it just wouldn't go away. A couple weeks would go by. So that's when I started getting into cortisone 10 over-the-counter hydrocortisone cream.
Okay.
Putting that on whenever I needed it.
Yeah. Was it mostly just for like aesthetic purposes that you didn't want it to be there? Or was it actually creating like some difficulty for you?
I mean, it was noticeable. It was itchy. So I would have to like itch it, and just, I didn't want it there. So you do what you think is the right thing, and you go to the pharmacy and grab whatever cream to make the rash or itch go away.
Yeah, well, of course. And so what year is this that you've got your lingering behind the knee eczema as your first symptom, and then we start using the over-the-counter purchase cortisone cream?
Yeah, it's just probably around late 2012, early 2013 right now.
Okay. And so, and at that time, like any other health issues that were also arising at the same time as eczema was?
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't until about a year and a half later when other symptoms started happening. But it was all through 2013 where it was just really just the back of my knee. It's really the only spot that was bothersome.
Yeah. But, and then, so we're putting cream on it, and we're putting cream on a daily basis, right? But just on a little bit of your body shouldn't be a big deal, right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't quite daily in 2013, but it was, I'd say maybe once or twice a week.
Okay.
Because then it would, I'd use it for a day or two in a row, and then it would kind of go away, and then I wouldn't need it for a week or two, and then I'd come back. Then I'd use the ointment again. It wasn't until about 2014 when it started spreading and getting a little bigger and needing more application of steroids.
Okay. And so then how did that expand for you? Because it obviously did not stay that simple.
So a lot of things happened in 2014. So what I think exaggerated the symptoms of the eczema was a little bit of stress, because during that time in 2012, I had just gotten married. In 2013, I started a CrossFit business in Santa Monica with extremely high rent, something that may have been a little bit over my head, but I was in it, working a full-time job, and then also starting that business. And literally my hours that first year, I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I'd go coach 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and then close up the gym at 7, get in my car, go do my full-time job doing fit modeling down in Orange County, come back, and then I'd coach the last class of the day, and then I'd have to clean and prep the gym to get it ready for the next morning. And I wouldn't get home until maybe 9:45 or 10 o'clock. And that was my schedule 6 days a week for the entire first year.
Okay. So at that point, like, are you feeling burnout-y? Or like, how were you during that? Because that's a lot to take on.
You know what? Surprisingly, I didn't feel anything in that moment. But it was after that first year, we finally got ourselves into a position where we could hire some people, and we hired some coaches to take over those hours, and I could kind of back off and do some more administration things. And that's kind of when the symptoms really kind of ramped up at that point. I think when you're in the moment and you're working and you're just on this adrenaline high every day, that you don't notice everything until you kind of just get that breather. And then everything goes bam, and just hits you out of nowhere. And that's when I started developing food sensitivities, and that was the next symptom. So the back of my knee started growing, so it was almost the size of a baseball at this point. And then it started going to my right elbow, and a little bit on the back of my scalp. Like I would notice I'd be itchy back here. And then I started developing food sensitivities to pizza specifically. I could never eat
pizza like it's one ingredient, you know? Like, do you think, like, was it specifically more so like the wheat? Was it more the dairy? Or was it just pizza?
Yes. All of the above.
Okay.
I think it was a combination. I mean, pizza for me was just so bad because it had gluten and wheat, it had grease, it had processed meat, it had dairy, and it was spicy most of the time. And all of those things together, I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I just, within minutes, my eyes would get so itchy, and I'd have to itch my eyes, and then they'd get all red and puffy. And so that right there caused me to start cutting out dairy and gluten. So.
Okay. So the food sensitivities began, and then did everything just keep snowballing from there? And, you know, that's what it happens for most of us. Yeah.
Yes, it did. So at this point, my sensitivity to food is getting kind of crazy. I start wondering, okay, there's something's wrong with me. I need to go check out what's happening. Do I have gluten sensitivity, or am I lactose intolerant? So I went into a dermatologist, and this is early 2015 at this point, because I'm sensitive to pizza. I'm sensitive to burgers as well, like cheeseburgers and stuff, similar ingredients to pizza. And then I'm also starting to develop sensitivities to beer. So I go to the allergist, and I do the whole prick test and the injections and everything. And nothing really came back definitive, really. But I decided from that point, I'm not going to do any more dairy, and I'm not going to do any more gluten. And that seemed to help for a while. But I would still get really itchy at night. And that was something that was kind of new. So first I would just have like a constant itch on the back of my knee and those eczema points. Yeah. But now it's starting to get really intense at night. Right before I want to go to bed, my legs would just itch. And it was always the weirdest thing. Whenever I take off my clothes for the day and then try to put my pajamas on or my sweats or whatever I'm sleeping in, that's when it would start to itch, when the air hit it, when the oxygen came in, and I would just and I would itch until I was bleeding because I was just itching so deep.
Yeah. And at this point, it's like you're not even scratching eczema, right? It's like, or rashes, it's like you're just itchy everywhere.
Yeah.
And previous to all of this, like, you didn't have any food sensitivities, right? Like, even when you were really building business and everything, you were like working out really hard at the time too, and like cleansing, and like it seemed like your body was in a really good place for you at that time, right? So now it's like we went to like the far other end of the spectrum very quickly.
Yeah. All the way up until we opened the gym in 2013, I was able to work out 7 to 9 times a week. Doing double days like every other day, like going to the CrossFit, then go running 5 miles that day. I was probably in the best shape of my life up until 2014, after that whole first year of the gym, because that first year you're still excited, but
Yeah.
What happens when you run a gym is your workout starts to suffer because you have to take over the business responsibilities.
Of course.
So, but yeah, I was doing paleo challenges all the time, testing myself and doing like the master cleanse, which is like lemon juice, cayenne pepper, maple syrup, and just drinking that for 10 days. I mean, the longest I did that was 14 days at once. Tested myself with a water cleanse, and I was able to make it 6 days just drinking water.
Amazing.
Whatever cleanser thing was out there, and I just wanted to test my willpower.
Yeah.
So I was doing it.
And you were pretty high functioning, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great that you had that type of human experience before this type of human experience, right? So,
Yeah.
Okay, so we're like 2015, things are getting worse, and like you're like full body itchy, even though you're not really eating the foods that are the culprit for you, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So at this point, like, and dermatologist is like, meh, can't really do a lot for you, right? Then how does everything progress for you?
So the itchiness at night just continues. I don't know what to do about it. And I just start researching like diets, anti-inflammatory diets, foods that make you itch, and just kind of looking at that. And at this point, I didn't quite want to accept that I had eczema because it just never resonated with me. Even though the doctor suggested it, it just never resonated with me. So I was always Googling other symptoms and itchy foods and things that would trigger me because my diet was pretty clean without gluten and without dairy, and being pretty strict with it. Like I couldn't figure out anything else that was really bothering me, but my symptoms just slowly started to get worse, and I couldn't figure it out. And at this point, I'm using the cortisone 10 daily. I have a tube in my bathroom. I have a tube in my car, and then I have a tube in my travel bag just in case, but I always needed it, because I work in the apparel industry. People see me on a daily basis, and it's an aesthetic need at this point, and I'm not really thinking about health overall for my body or balance or any of that. I'm thinking, okay, I need to look the part for the job and for what I'm doing, and people are going to see me. I don't want to make them uncomfortable with having a rash on my arm, so I got to cover it up.
Yeah. Okay, so then at that point, like, how much of your body is being daily coated in corticosteroids?
Well, I was putting it, at this point, I'm putting it on my eyes right here on the T-zone, I guess. I'm putting it on my right elbow. I have a little spot on my wrist, so I'm putting it there, and I'm putting it on the back of my knees and then on my right ankle. It's always kind of right side dominated. It never really traveled to the left very much.
Okay. So that's happening, but then things still progress to get even worse, right?
Yeah.
Or did things kind of like mellow out there because we had like a big life change in 2017, right? But like leading up to that point, did things just stay at this place where it's like you're itchy all the time and you're just mitigating it and trying to manage it with corticosteroids?
Yeah, it was an issue for me daily, but it wasn't a problem.
Okay.
So I mean, I could deal with it. I felt like it wasn't noticeable enough to really dig in, and it wasn't limiting any of my daily activities. It wasn't limiting work. It wasn't limiting any of my hobbies. It's just more of an annoyance, but I could deal with it. So I never really put a lot of time into it and trying to figure it out. But yeah, going through 2016, getting up into 2017, some stressful situations happened in my personal life, and the marriage that I had and entered into in 2012 was falling apart, and it was out of my control.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So with that leading up to that point for you, were things just like stable at that, shitty, uncomfortable degree until you had some really big life changes?
Well, let's see. So the end of 2016 is when things started to unravel a little bit in the marriage, and we had decided to separate a little bit, and I had moved down to Orange County, which was closer to my work, and was living at my grandma's house. for this time period. And I don't really recall having any major skin flares or anything that was really just needing my attention, maybe because I was so focused on trying to keep the marriage together and figure out what was going on there. And it was really interesting because a lot of people had made comments about like my eye color. During this period, people had seen me, and I don't know. Actually, let me back up. During this period, people were not commenting on my eye color. This was later. They were actually commenting on my skin tone and everything, and saying that I kind of looked sick. And I thought so as well. Like my cheeks had kind of sunken in, my skin color had kind of changed a little bit, and I just didn't look healthy. And I don't know if that was an outward manifestation of everything that was going on internally with me, or if I literally was a different color, but my skin had like just kind of lost all pigment, and just I looked green and pale, and that was kind of going on in 2016 to early 2017 when the divorce was actually filed.
Okay. And I mean, we know that stress can basically have the effects of chemotherapy on the body, like let alone, right, all of the toxicity and trauma that happens to a body with steroids. Going through that at the same time, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still don't realize what's going on with my body. So I know things are going downhill slowly, and I can't figure it out. But it's not even a thought in my head that it's topical steroids or the cream that I'm using every single day.
Of course not, right? That would be the last thing. For me, it was always like the cream that's my eczema cream. I put it on and it helps the rashes go away. And there was this idea that rashes can't go away without it for some reason. Did you have that little mental program like I did?
Yeah. No, yeah. It was like your daily vitamin. Yeah. It was like you thought it was healthy for you. It was like, oh, this is what's going to fix it. I'm good. Let's go.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so then up to that place in 2017, you're still eating pretty darn clean because you're having these inflammatory responses, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't feel 100%. I feel a little bit like fatigue is setting in a little bit. And then obviously I notice my skin, and, in my profession, people see me every day and they'll comment on looks and things like that. Yeah. And they point things out. And so when the other people point it out, that's when, it's like an issue. You're like, okay, now I really got to do something about it. And so at this point I'm really like trying to do an elimination diet and just kind of dilute it down to vegetables at night, fruit in the morning, and just really simplify it. So I'm like not ingesting anything that's inflammatory that's going to cause me to flare.
Yeah. And this 2017, is this like right after divorce for you?
This is leading up to and post divorce filing. So okay. I filed for divorce in 2017, April.
Okay. And then skin started shifting, right?
Yeah. So the crazy
what was that about, and how?
I have no idea. So after I filed divorce and I moved out a week later, I moved down to Orange County in this place, and that whole the rest of 2017 all the way into early 2018, my skin just cleared. And by the like April, May, June, July, like late summer, like random strangers were coming up to me going, wow, how old are you? You look like you're in your early 20s. Like people thought I was like 10 years younger than I was. But that's when people started commenting on my eye color, because my eyes are normally kind of green, but they shifted to like a really light blue. And that was really interesting. And my parents were even like, have you always had blue eyes? Like they were confused. But yeah, there was just a youthfulness to my skin that about 6 months after I filed for divorce. And I cannot explain that because I was still using steroid creams, but I wasn't using them as often because I didn't need them anymore. My skin had kind of cleared up. It was almost like a flush happened. Like everything went away
Yeah.
And then it was slowly filling back up. And by early 2018 is when symptoms started to come back, but they started to come back worse and in new places. So this is when I'm getting really worried. Like, okay, it never was on my face before. It never was on my neck before. It was never really on the left side before. Now it, like my stomach is itching, my chest is itching, my back is itching, and it's really starting to cover my entire body now. And the itch is beyond intense at this point.
Yeah. At this point, like the itch, is it more like hives or welts? Like I've had all forms of like hives and welts and like all different types of things. The skin does so many things during this process for me. So when it started going full body for you, what was it like? Was it like a moist rash or more of like a dry, itchy eczema rash?
So the itch was like a dry itch, and I would itch, and there was nothing really there to itch, but because I was digging so deep, I would rip and tear my skin. And so then I'd create all these open wounds and then all these little scabs everywhere. But the way it looked was almost just like I had just gotten burned in a bunch of places. Like it was just kind of like raised skin a little bit. It was really red, a little bit shiny, almost like, like if you burn yourself and you get like a blister, the skin is like kind of smooth. Like it kind of looked like that. And it got all up in my T-zone, right here along these creases of my cheeks. The back of my scalp started to really get really flaky, and I started losing a lot of hair. Like I brush and like 10 to 15 hairs would fall out.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So this is late 2018.
Yeah, we're about mid 2018 at this point.
Okay, so we're like less than a year and a half ago from right now. This is that soon for you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So it's going full body regardless of what you eat, right? You're eating so clean, you're doing all the things you should be, and shit just keeps getting worse.
Yeah. Like I was literally scratching my head like, this doesn't make sense. Like I'm literally eating broccoli and cauliflower every single night of the week. I have avocado for breakfast. I'm doing coffee with no creamer and sugar. And then I have a salad every single day for lunch. Like, my diet can't get any better. Like I exercise every morning for an hour. I'm out in the sun. Like there's not a lot of stress like in my life. Like since the divorce, I made a decision and a commitment. Like I'm going to do what makes me happy, period. If it doesn't make me happy, I'm not going to do it. And if it doesn't make me happy, I'm not going to have it around me. And I was like, I don't understand what the hell is happening because I made a decision to only do things that make me happy, and I'm doing that. My life is stress-free. I got all my bills covered. I'm eating healthy. I get to go do my hobbies every single day. But my skin is just going berserk. I just can't take it anymore. So at this point, in 2018, this is when I'm like, all right, I got to do something about this because I just if I don't, it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and I don't know what that looks like. So
you're still using steroids though at this point, right?
Yeah. So once the symptoms started coming back, I started using the steroids, and it's still just the cortisone.
Okay, but still, is it now like more full body for you? And
Yep.
Still daily application, right?
Yeah. So cortisone 10 makes a product eczema lotion, and it's not quite as intense as the ointment or whatever that they have. So I bought all these lotions, and I was literally every morning just all over my face. All over my arms. It was my daily lotion. I didn't use, Lubriderm or Aquaphor or anything of that. It was just eczema cortisone lotion.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that it's going to fix me like it did before,
right.
But it doesn't. And so this is when I start reaching out to dermatologists. And I went to a dermatologist, and the first thing he did was give me prednisone and put me on a round of prednisone. Because I was on a full flare. I marched in there. I was like, look at my face. We need to fix this right now.
Yeah. And are you even like puffy at all? Because like one thing with TSW is often like we have orbital swelling. So you get like the fat face and the really swollen eyes. Were you getting any of that, or was it just like crazy inflamed skin?
Crazy inflamed skin. I didn't really get the puffiness or any of that until 2019.
Okay. Okay. So doctor sees you. First thing he does is give you prednisone. Same thing that kept happening with me every time I go. But one thing that I want to like shine light on from the audience, at least, that I've read so many clinical studies, like for the ones that do actually exist on topical steroid addiction and withdrawal. And it's like this as a consequence of taking these drugs has been reported since the 70s. So it's like there is clinical literature of all of the different things that happen to skin when we use topical steroids for even a short amount of time. So like this information is out there that I really believe that doctors and dermatologists should be well versed on this, because this is one of their, their most commonly things that are prescribed for such an assortment and variety of skin ailments, that how are you going to a dermatologist and they're not recognizing that, oh my God, this gentleman is having an extreme reaction, Okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
anyways, let's pick it up there. So you go and he gives you prednisone, and then what?
So he's under the impression that my flare is from dryer sheets. So I'm using like Tide Gentle Free and Clear, and he's like, "Oh,
Okay.
you use dryer sheets?" He's like, "That's it. That's 100% it. Stop using dryer sheets, you'll be fine." And so I go and I stop using dryer sheets.
Simple.
Yeah, if it was that simple, it's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? But he's like, they're heat activated. He's in a white coat, so you want to believe him.
Yeah.
And he's an expert. He's studied. He's gone to medical school. He knows a lot more about this than I do. So I trust him. So I take out the dryer sheets. I stop using that. I've used the same detergent like for the last like 20 years. So that hasn't changed. But after a couple of weeks, I'm still not getting better. So I go to an allergist, because the dermatologist is like, you need to see what you're allergic to, because if it's not the dryer sheets, I don't know what it is.
Other than prednisone, is he telling you to keep up with topical steroids? Is he giving you anything in addition?
No.
Okay.
He luckily, this first dermatologist did not prescribe me steroids on an ongoing basis besides that prednisone, just because I was in such a massive flare and I was in such a panic. But after that prednisone, it did clear up quite a bit, but then it came back even worse. And so that's when I started reaching out to the allergist, and I reached out to a second dermatologist. And then I've always kind of had an aversion to medicine and Western medicine in general, but I needed to get some tests done. So that's why I went to the allergist. I was like, look, I don't really want your opinion. I just want to do the tests. So let's just get these prick tests done and injectable tests. And same with the dermatologist. So I was like, what tests can we do? Can you test me for impetigo or whatever? And so she did that. And then I also went to an endocrinologist, and I did all the blood tests because I wanted to test my thyroid. I wanted to test if I had Lyme disease, if I had any cancer or carcinoids in there. I think it's carcinoids or carcinogens, whatever. And my vitamin levels and all that. And then I went to a naturopath, and we did a food sensitivity test. So she took a whole bunch of blood. We tested a bunch of foods against that. We also tested my immunoglobulin levels, my IgAs, IgEs, and tested all of that because I figured, look, if the doctor's just going to look at me and try and diagnose me based off that, that's not enough for me to go on and really depend on that information. So I was like, I need something concrete. So that's why I wanted to do the test. And at least I've never done any like medical or physical tests like that. So I don't have any baseline to compare. So I was like, at least I'll get a baseline from now on. And I started getting all the results back, and nothing made sense. Like I was like off the charts sensitive to pineapples and bananas, like crazy. And then in my allergy test, I was allergic to onions and just all these weird things. And it just, nothing was clear. And even the doctors.
Nothing was showing up for cancer, right? Nothing was showing up for parasites. It wasn't Lyme's. Like it wasn't any of those go-to illnesses.
No, not at all. Nothing. And yeah, we did 2 parasite tests or stool tests. So we tested for yeast and candida. We tested for parasites. I did a gut permeability test because the naturopath, her first line of defense for me was, let's treat leaky gut. Skin is a reflection of the gut. And so we started treating that. And I told her about like some of the antibiotics I had taken because in 2018, I had a surgery on my hand. So I broke my pinky And so they went in and fixed that, and then I tore a ligament in my thumb, and so they fixed that, and then I had to do some antibiotics after that surgery. And as we know, antibiotics destroy the gut. So I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm like stepping backwards, and still no idea this is caused by steroid cream. And there was a period, a couple of months in 2018, where I literally had just like given up and just felt like I'm going to die and I have no idea what I'm suffering from. Yeah. Like nobody can tell me. I've gone to a dermatologist, endocrinologist, allergist, naturopath. Mm-hmm. Nobody can tell me what's going on, but I don't feel right. Yeah. And it was an intuitive feeling at this point that just kept telling me, keep digging, keep figuring it out, because you haven't hit the nail on the head yet.
Yeah. And then during like that time, like it was quite a time of darkness, right? At least that's what it was in my situation. Like I went years without knowing that it was TSW. Years of, just like you said, going through the tests, going to all the different doctors, going to the dermatologist, doing all of the things, and really coming to the idea that it's like, I probably have lymphoma or cancer and I'm going to die. So for you, how many, like, was that weeks of that dark period? Was that months?
I would say it's probably closer to months, because at this point, I can't hide it anymore. Every single person I work with sees it. Every person I hang out with as a friend sees it. When I'm out doing my hobbies, like it's noticeable, and, comments are made on a weekly, if not daily basis. So it's like, it's in my face every day, and as well as on my body.
Yeah. How did that shift like social circles for you and your hobbies and like what you love?
Well, I mean, I didn't change my schedule at this point, because I still felt like, I still had, most of my days were still good. And I wasn't in a debilitating state yet, because I was still using the steroids. They were just less effective. So as my symptoms are kind of getting more and more like boiling over to the top, the steroids effectiveness are starting to use less and less and less. And the allergist had prescribed me a strong, I think it was a steroid, but it was fluocinomide for the back of my scalp, because I was really itchy and dry back there. The second dermatologist I went to prescribed me triamcinolone and instructed me at night, because the itching was so bad, to cover my body with triamcinolone ointment and then put sweats on or cover it up like a wet dressing and sleep in that until the rash went away. Yeah, so now this is the first time I'm using prescribed steroids, and it's clear that it's not helping at all. So months go by, and I meet up with my naturopath for our follow-up appointment. I think it's been 3 or 4 months, and we've been treating the gut, and she sees clearly that I'm still inflamed. I still got a rash everywhere, and I'm still itchy. And she's confused at this point. She's like, okay, do you feel like the supplements we've been doing are working? Do you feel like the plan is working? I was like, yes, but clearly, I feel better, but I don't look better. So we're not there yet. So she's like, all right, we're going to scrap everything we've done, and we're going to try a whole new plan. We're going to treat you with these supplements, try this and this and this. So I feel like I'm kind of defeated at this point, and just like now I just feel like people are grasping at straws trying to fix me, and I don't like that feeling that I'm just being tossed around like,
and no one has confidence to help you fix yourself, right?
Yeah.
No one has an idea.
Yeah, I'm losing confidence in them, because it's clear that they don't know what I have yet or what is going on with me. So I went home and I tried the new list of supplements that she had prescribed, and they hurt my stomach so bad. I went to work, and I was like, I almost called in work, and I don't miss work. Like 15 years, like maybe 2 days I've called in sick because I couldn't move, just because I was like flu or something. But I almost canceled the rest of my day because my stomach hurt so bad it was in knots. So the next day I decided I'm not going to do this medicine anymore. I need to find something else. And a friend of mine had just produced the documentary Heal on Netflix. And so I reached out to her, and I was like, hey, I just saw that you produced in your show. You just came out. It's amazing. I'm dealing with a crisis here. I've got like crazy eczema all over my skin. Doctors can't figure it out. Do you have anyone that you've come across throughout your production of your whole Heal documentary that you can refer me to? And she texted me back. She's like, go check out the medical medium and go get his book, The Liver Rescue. I hung up the phone and I went straight to the bookstore and I grabbed that book off the shelf.
Yeah.
And I can't describe to you, but when I grabbed it, I felt like I had just pulled the sword out of the stone. Like I was like, hallelujah. Like it was, I just picked it up and it was like a vibration all the way down to my core. And I was like, I don't even know what's in this book, but it's the answer.
So when is this? Because I remember being so excited for it to come out. I remember ordering it early on Amazon, and I think it came out like October 30th last year, so almost a year ago. So when is this in your timeline?
This is March 17th.
Okay, this is this year in 2019. So you went through, so there were like months of darkness of the, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me, right? I'm dying thing. Okay, and so you get this book and it glows in your hand.
And so here's the thing. I still don't know about topical steroid withdrawal.
Okay, you just are like, this guy knows how to fix skin problems, right?
Exactly. I mean, it says answers to eczema, psoriasis, diabetes, strep. It says answers to everything. And so I just dive into the book and I went straight to his Liver Rescue 369 plan, which is a 9-day liver rescue plan. Yeah. And it gives you everything from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed for 9 days. I jumped right into that and I did it 4 times in a row. Just because I was like, that makes sense. My liver's overloaded. I need to clear it out. So while I'm doing this, I'm still researching, like, because this whole area is all red on my T-zone, right above my eyes, the bridge of my nose, and it's kind of creeping down around my mouth. And the best way I could describe it is I look like a turkey vulture or like a raccoon. And so I Googled like raccoon eyes or turkey vulture skin, like, just anything that I could describe, and I'm Googling it, and then Google's not showing me a lot of stuff. So I jump on YouTube, and that's when I actually started to see videos of people who had similar symptoms, and they started using these words like topical steroid withdrawal, TSW, red skin syndrome. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Because that looks like me. Like, that looks just like me. So I started Googling red skin syndrome, and then I stumbled upon the ItSan website, and then I just started watching all these videos on YouTube, trying to figure out what this is, because I started cleaning up my diet, and this seems to be what I have, but how do I verify? So I'm just digging deeper into YouTube videos, and then it's a website kind of confirmed it for me. Yeah. And it was a sigh of relief, but it was almost a moment where it's just like, what the hell? You start reading that it takes this long to recover, and then you start reading about all these other people and all the symptoms that they have, and then you're like, yes, that's me, and you're kind of excited that you figured out the answer, but you're just crushed because everything that everyone else is going through is what you're going through, and it never needed to happen in the first place if the experts, the doctors, were smart enough to advise us correctly in the first place.
Yes. Okay, so that's spring. You got the book March 17th. You did 4 rounds, so that's like 36 days of cleansing with that. And then that's when you discover ItSan and all of this.
Yep.
Okay. And so what happens to your heart and spirit then because actually for me, I think it was right around April or May this year that, after me being years in this, thinking that I dodged death and illnesses, and then I also, like, same timeline, realized what this was. And I know for me, it was like, there was hope, because it's like, okay, I'm not actually dying, but then to see the reality, like you just said, of like what this truly means for us to get out of it, how many people are going through this, and again, how preventable this is, how completely unnecessary this crazy degree of suffering is, right?
Yeah.
So you learn that, and then what? How's your heart in that moment that you recognize that it's like, oh shit, this is a really big situation from our society?
Well, let's see. So the first month, from March 18th to April 18th, and
Yeah.
I was doing the 3-6-9 plan,
Yeah.
I didn't really have a crazy rebound of symptoms. In
Did
fact,
symptoms start going away? Because you're still using steroids at this point, right? We're just trying to do his protocols.
yeah. So I'm doing the protocol, and the symptoms are slowly uh, becoming less. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Like I figured it out. Like I'm clearing my liver. Like things are good. So then I get into late April, and I went back to a baby shower of some old friends from my previous marriage, and ran into my ex. I thought everything was gonna be cool. Like time has passed. Like it's just gonna be like hey, what's going on? And just something about the interaction between us really rubbed me the wrong way, and it affected me a lot more than I anticipated. And my skin was calming down up until that point. And then after that, about a week or two, my skin started to ramp up, and it started ramping up in a way that was worse than I'd ever experienced in the previous couple of years. Just like, it felt like there was a torch being applied to my body the entire time. Just my skin was on fire. My skin was itching. My skin was like cracked and dry. And it got really bad after that encounter.
Yeah. And sorry, at that encounter, did you already know it was TSW, or that's like right before we learned about it?
I still didn't realize it was TSW at this point.
Okay. So obviously there's an emotional correlation though, right? To like, you're learning that at this point, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I even checked myself into therapy. I went into therapy for that encounter. Because it just affected me more than I anticipated. And I'm usually pretty in tune with my feelings and everything like that. And this just threw me for a loop. And then it started affecting my skin. So there's a connection between the emotional and the physical. And so I went into therapy. And while I'm in therapy, I kind of discovered, I'm more convinced that I have TSW, and this is what I got to deal with. And my symptoms are getting bad to the point where on Saturdays and Sundays, I sit right there on my coffee table, straight up, because I don't want to flake an itch and scratch all over.
Not on your couch. On your
I don't want to ruin my couch. So I sit on the coffee table and I scratch while I'm watching 6 to 7 hours of Netflix because I'm so uncomfortable. I can't go out and do my normal hobbies. I love to ride my bike. I love to ride my motorcycle. I love to go outside and be at the beach. Like I love to do stuff. I'm an active person, and this just had me like I was just like in a furnace. It felt like I was in a furnace and I was itching from the inside out, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's starting to creep past my physical body. And now it's starting to affect my mind, my mindset. And I'm getting severely depressed, borderline suicidal. And
have we already like ceased using the steroids at this point because we realized what it was?
Yeah, so late April, a month after I stopped using all the medications from the doctors and I was on the liver rescue plan, late April is when I finally cut out all the steroids. Mid-April.
Okay. And that's when skin burning, that's when you're on your coffee table for like all weekend. That's where like everything just gets so exacerbated, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So how long did that take for the body to start going through those massive changes? Because still now, this is something that felt probably like far worse and more extreme than even all of the symptoms that you had previously in the last couple of years, right?
Okay. Yeah. This is by far the worst. It's a level of torture that I can't even describe. It's not just an itch. It's like a sunburn that you've been out in the like Sahara desert for like 7 days straight. And imagine that kind of sunburn feeling. And then it's also like you just got stung by 1,000 bees and you're just itching those bee stings all over, and mosquitoes. And then you've rolled around in poison oak and poison ivy all at the same time. And your body is extremely chapped and dehydrated. All of those symptoms combined don't even describe how bad it feels.
No.
Like I mean, you're just sitting there and there's nothing you can do. You have no control over it. There's nothing that's gonna that's going to fix it. I even went back to the doctors and was like, what can we do? And they're like, Google says we should give you more steroids. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, this is not okay. So you realize that Western medicine and Western doctors can't help you. Even my naturopath, when I went back to her and I was like, hey, this is what I have, I found out what it is, she had never heard of it until I brought it to her attention. And that blew my mind. Like, for how many people that I've seen dealing with this, how is it that doctors are oblivious? It's depressing.
Yeah. Okay, so like from you ceasing topical steroids, it can take, sometimes for people it seems like it's immediate that like the TSW, like the huge symptoms come on. Some people it looks like it can take like some weeks or even up to months for like the crazy symptoms to set in. How fast was that progression for you in your body?
I'd say within 2 weeks. 2 weeks it really started setting in hard, let's see, May, June, July were terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Did you have any idea that it would get this crazy for you?
Not a clue.
Did you ever think that you would ever have to experience anything to this degree of constant suffering in your life? Like, is there anything that could outweigh this even? You know what I mean?
No, there's nothing that I've ever become aware of or can think of that is worse than this.
No.
Like, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
No.
It's miserable. No. It's miserable.
So for you, like the emotion, like what has this experience been like for you as a human? Like, regardless of everything that the physical body's going through and the continual sensation, but like take us, because I mean, you know, for hopefully there's going to be people listening to this that are going through this, you know, with us, that they get some good tidbits out of this, or people that, you know, have loved ones that might be on still topical steroids. And then there's people that might just be interested in hearing stories and have no idea what this is like. Right. So like to be in your mind, to be in your heart, to be in the emotions of this, where it's like every day, every single day, every single hour, there's not a minute. Like, if, you know, what if we could have like a 5-minute break where the body was like, hey, for 5 minutes, we're not going to be in TSW. Imagine that. Do you know what I mean? That would feel like an infinite vacation for us. But into those times where it's like you have an idea of what this is going to be going through, right? Because some people have documented this, but like, what is it like in the emotions of you in these darkest times?
So once I figured out that it was topical steroid withdrawal, I kind of decided that I'm just going to do this on my own. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it go away. And I'm just going to return to life and all's going to be normal, right? I know what it is now. I can fix it. Boy, was I humbled in that thinking. But yeah, I hate in May and June. I mean, I'm just finishing like about 6 weeks of therapy at this point. I'm feeling a lot better about, you know, the whole encounter with the ex, and my skin is still kind of bad, really bad. And I just go into this dark place where it's like, I realize I can't do this on my own. I don't know who to turn to because the doctors have let me down. I don't want to be vulnerable in front of my coworkers or my friends. You know, you don't want to pollute those relationships with this because you don't know how long it's going to be here. There's so much unanswered questions about it. And I just reached this point. There was a 1 week specifically in June where I was just in so much pain that it felt like not being here would be a better option. And because I couldn't continue the suffering anymore. Like, it hurt so bad. Like, just getting out of bed was so painful. Showers were painful. Moving and turning my head was painful. Everything was painful in such a way. Death seemed like a better option. And I love life.
Yes.
Love life.
Yes.
But you watching your body disintegrate in front of you and watching your life crumble around this, oh, it's a feeling that you can't describe. Like you have no control. You feel helpless. You feel like you're completely alone, and there's no answer, and there's no upswing from this. You're just dive bombing, and you can't do anything about it. So at this point, I'm having to like cancel my gym memberships and things like that. And the gym manager, which I'm friends with, called me and was like, hey, what's going on? I've been hearing some things. You're dealing with some stuff. Like, just want to make sure you're okay. And so I had a good conversation with her, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She heard everything I was saying. She had no idea what it was, but she just connected with me on a like empathetic like level. She just made me feel like I was still human. And she also helped me realize that it's just too much of a burden to go through on your own. And imagine how many people I could help if I started documenting this and documenting the worst parts, how it happened, when it happened, and all that goes along with it. And so based on that conversation, I was inspired to just post the worst stuff that I was going through. And my mentality was, this is me. And if people in my life don't accept me and for what I'm going through, and they don't want to be here for me, like I just reached this limit that if you don't accept me as I am with all of this skin rash and just craziness going on, then I have no time for you anyways. And I hit this point where it's like, no bullshit. Let's get real. Let's get connected, and let's start listening to the body, because the body is off balance. And I don't know, throughout all this time, a lot is going on. So I'm starting to gain confidence to start posting it and let people know what's going on. So this is the first time I'm going public with it. 2, I'm really trying to get in tune with my body and listen to my body, and not be too analytical anymore, and just try and really get in connection with any deeper issues that might be causing this. Sure, it's a physical skin problem, but what else is going on that could be making it worse? And then I'm also trying to claw my way out of a depression, because, now I've been inspired to kind of like think bigger than me. Like, first it was all Luke, like, oh, Luke's world's going down, Luke's life is falling apart. Yeah. But there's so many other people out there dealing with this. So how can we all educate ourselves, grow together, heal together? And so all of that kind of happened in the same week or so.
Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so much. It's so much. And honestly, like, even just to hear your story of how much pain and how much suffering there is in that, and how much isolation there is in that, and like the way that you're vulnerable with it, and the way that it can't be hidden, right? Like, how did that play out even for work for you? Because understanding that, like, you've shared with me that you try on clothes all day professionally, right? This is what you do, is like, people have to observe you in clothes in your body. Like, how is even doing that when I'm assuming your whole body is in this place, right? Is there any part of you that's been spared besides probably the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet?
No, I mean, in terms of physical, in terms of like the sensation, no. Yeah. My entire body, head to toe, is feeling itchy, burning, cracked all the time. Is it red and inflamed everywhere? No, it kind of reserved itself to my face, to my neck, to my elbows, and to my legs. But I couldn't hide it anymore. And yeah, for my job, I do try on clothes with about 4 to 5 different clients every day. And in a fitting, there's at least 4 up to 10 people in a fitting room staring at me while I try on the clothes. And yeah, they're looking at the garment. So they're looking at the pocket, the shoulders, the graphics, all those things. And they're not really looking at me, but I'm still there. Yeah. And all eyes are right here. And that's tough to deal with. And you don't notice what they're looking at until they go, hey, Luke, the back of your leg is like really like scabbed up and bleeding. Like, are you okay? And that's when you're just like, oh. you don't even know how to describe it. You're like, well, I'm going through something right now. And I still, yes, I know topical steroids, but I don't know how long my experience is going to take. You know, I've read everything. It could take 1 up to 7 years. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm not going to last that long. I'm going to make this go away in 6 months. I was like determined. But you just don't know how to explain it to normal people. People who don't have any issues, any skin issues. And then you have to explain, oh, well, you know, I was using steroids to treat eczema, and then my body got addicted. Like, you almost feel like you're a drug addict trying to explain it in a way like you're not confident explaining it yet. So, you know, there was a stumbling process trying to like owning it and accepting it. And I think once I was able to accept it, I was able to be a little more confident in explaining it to people and really getting them to understand what was going on. And eventually I had to, after I started posting on Instagram, I just had to talk to each one of my clients and go, look, I'm battling a really mysterious skin condition that is caused by medicine, and I don't know how long it's going to take, so I might come in here looking different every day. Just need you guys to know, but I won't change my body. Like, I'll make sure my body is still on spec and that I still do my job. But like you mentioned, trying on pants, skinny jeans that are like rigid fabric, in those times when it hurts just to bend your arm, like I can't even brush my teeth without like my arm hurting, you know? And now I got to put on these tight, skinny jeans and this rigid, heavy fabric. Oh God, I had to hold my breath and grit my teeth every single day.
Okay, so now once you've been able to really explain this to all of your clients and just be like, hey, this is me, this is the shit I'm going through, it's gonna be here a while, I'm gonna look like a different stage of zombie, you know, every time. Like, I tell people, like, I think I'm becoming a zombie because it's like my body's just disintegrating, you know. So how did they receive you once you were just like, this is the situation, take it or leave it?
You know, everyone was really, really receptive to it and accommodating, and they were. It's been really nice to see the level of relationship that I have with a lot of my clients, because it went from just a professional relationship with them to, wow, they actually care about me as a human being and as a person. And they like I can count on these people to be there for me, like, which is great. It was really comforting once I opened up to everyone about it. And it's interesting because I felt like the connection between me and every person that I opened up to about it was so much stronger, but I also realized that they literally cannot do anything for me. No matter how many, oh, how are you doing today? Oh, you know, time will pass, like you'll heal. Like, no matter what, like, consoling they did, I realized that, like, as much as they care, bless their heart, it doesn't do a thing for me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we had just broken this barrier where now I'm closer to them and we're like talking about different things, and our relationship is elevated, but I'm also seeing that I'm still in this alone. And the only people that provide me any kind of comfort are people going through this as well. And Instagram has been huge because so many people are going through the exact same thing. Like, when I post itchy videos of me at night just ripping my neck apart, people hit me up and go, oh my gosh, I did the same thing yesterday. Like, and it was like, it sucks that we're suffering together, but at the same time, it's like, oh, so you totally understand. Like, you just want people to understand and know what you're going through. That's all you want. And you want to know that you're still a human being. And I don't know if that's just the way I perceive it or if everyone perceives it that way, but the only people who brought me real comfort were people going through the exact same thing.
I will completely agree with that sentiment. And so amazing that like colleagues were more accepting of you and supportive. Was that also mirrored like in friendships and like you riding your bike? Like how did that also taint that side of your life? Because I went full on hermit mode when friendless for years because I couldn't even communicate. I didn't want people to even witness me, you know? So what was that like for you with the people that have always known you and the people that love you and the things that you do to enjoy your life? What happened?
Well, I mean, so my hobbies are I ride BMX probably 5 to 6 days a week after work. And we have a good group of buddies that we all ride together with. And then I've also ride motorcycles on the weekends. Um, but with the topical steroid withdrawal, like my skin is just not cooperating. I can't bend my arms. I can't turn my head. I just don't feel safe on my bike. And so I tried to just still hang out with my buddies, but bunch of guys on bikes, like we all like to talk shit back and forth. And it just, the normal shit talking that we used to do with each other started to get personal for me, and I just couldn't be around it anymore. And that was one of the reasons why I kind of secluded myself, just because I didn't have the energy to combat with it anymore and just like throw it back and throw, it's all in good fun, but at the same time, it's like it takes energy to deal with that. And so I backed off of bike riding, and then just also being around all my buddies, because I just I'm in so much pain. I can't focus on having a good time. I can't ride my bike safely. I can't be around them because I'm too stressed, like about what they're going to say, if they're going to notice, what comment are they going to make today? And it's not like it was hurtful. It was, good fun, but it still affected me. And so I just realized that I've only got a certain amount of energy in a day, and I need to reserve all of it for healing, and I can't reserve any of it for bullshit. So I secluded myself and basically just posted on Instagram. I have another Instagram page that is all like BMX and work and stuff. And I just posted on there like, hey, I need to take a break. I'm not sure when I'm going to come back, but I'm going through some stuff. If you guys want to follow my journey, go check it out. But I need to back off for a minute because I don't know what is really going on. I don't know how long it's going to take. So yeah, isolation, hermit for sure. And then my life just became the last 3 months. I go to work, I come home, prep my meals for tomorrow, and devote absolutely all my time to healing. I don't go out. I don't eat out. That's it.
Family,
they reach out every now and then. Only one brother is within 20 minutes of me, but he just bought a new house. He's got a new baby. He's kind of preoccupied. He got a new job. So I haven't really had much time with my family throughout this process, and love them to death, but they haven't really invested much time into educating themselves about what's going on. I mean, just last month, my mom asked me how my eczema was still doing. And as kind as that is, it's just the wrong question to ask. And the fact that she didn't know that I was going through topical steroid withdrawal was just like, oh, wow. I know she's busy, but, But again, going back to the comfort, like nobody can comfort me who's not going through it. It doesn't matter what they say. The only thing that they can do to make me feel better is maybe give me a hug and make me feel like I'm a human being still and not like a dirty hippie zombie. Because yeah, at this point, I've discovered non-moisture treatment, and I'm not showering as often. I'm not putting any products on my skin. I'm crusty all the time, flaking all the time. And you just you look at yourself, you don't recognize yourself. You look like you're 20 years older than you are.
At least 20 years.
Yeah. And you just, so, that's what a normal person can do if you're not dealing with topical steroid withdrawal, is just continue to treat somebody suffering like a human being. We might not be able to go to the movies or go to dinner, but if you just stop by and give us a hug on your way out, like that would change our world. Right? That's all you need.
A gentle hug.
Yeah. I mean, depending on the stage, I mean, yeah, but just that physical, there's something special about physical connection, and just having someone give you a hug and just that moment of surrender, is just, there's an energy transfer there that builds you right back up.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, like having this community online on Instagram, because I didn't know again about any of this until really like I started finding people on Instagram, and that's how I started self-educating. But like for me, that's been the hugest amount of support. And like you said, just to have people that are also going through it and actually understand. So for you, like primary support system, is it through social media right now also?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd definitely say so. I get a lot of messages every day on my posts and on my stories. And I'm also in a Facebook group that has I think around 11,000 people all going through this, and so there's a lot of support there. But one thing that I noticed really quickly is with all these support groups is that a lot of people post their symptoms and a lot of people post their struggles, and that's what I'm doing too. But a lot of people ask questions of others going through this, and I saw all these people just throwing all these like creams. Oh, try this. This worked for my cousin. This worked for me. Da 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 da. And I couldn't make sense of all the information that was being passed around and tossed around just so freely. And so what I decided after seeing how many people are dealing with this is I started searching out the veterans, the people who have healed from this. I don't want to take my information from people who are going through it just like me, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm trying different things, but I really don't know what's actually working. And so what I wanted to do is search out people who have healed and who have gone through this and who have found ways to get past this quickly and efficiently. So I reached out, talked to as many veterans as I could. Then I started comparing notes. What did this person do? What did that person do? Okay, what's the connection between those two? And that's how I kind of put together my healing plan of, diet, not putting any products on my skin, getting an adequate amount of sunshine every day, trying to get an adequate amount of sleep every day, exercise, and just kind of building my plan from people who have done it.
Okay. So like for you in a regular day for you, what are all of the things that you're doing to stack, the odds in favor of body and healing and not doing things to like deplete any energy? What is your self-care like at this stage of the game?
All right. So from the time I wake up, mornings are pretty tough. It takes me about an hour or two to really kind of get back into my body because there's so much movement going on with just cleansing throughout the night.
Yeah.
But the first thing I do every morning is I drink 20 ounces of celery juice. So I juice celery, and I do 3 days worth, put it in mason jars, and I just have it ready to go. And I drink that first thing in the morning. And let that sit in my stomach for at least 45 minutes. Okay. And then after that, I take some supplements. I have some homeopathic remedies that I do. So they're little tinctures that I drop into my mouth, and I do that because that's still kind of light on the stomach. And then I usually try and eat some sort of fruit, like an apple or some melon, usually if I can get it, or some figs or some berries in the morning. Something light that my body it'll get me going, but it's not going to weigh me down. So once I get something in my stomach, that's when I take all my supplements. And I got a whole list of supplements. I take zinc, B12, lemon balm, a probiotic, selenium, magnesium, lysine, ashwagandha, 5-HTP, and CoQ10, and spirulina.
Okay. That's a really, really good list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and all of those kind of just help calm the adrenals, kind of help get the body back on balance, and just good nutrients for the gut. So, and there's another one I take called permeability factor and Perbi. So I take both of those to help with the gut as well. But those are a lot. Like, it's a handful of pills, and I look at those sometimes and I go, yeah, they're all natural, but it's still like, I need to get off these supplements. I need to just start putting real food in my body. So then after I do that, I go to work, and I usually get my first fitting out of the way, and then I'll grab a cup of coffee. That's one thing I can't give up. I need coffee. So I get a cup of coffee after my first fitting usually. And at lunchtime, I have a liver rescue salad. And this is just from the Liver Rescue book. I kind of modified the recipe, but I have that Monday through Friday. And then after I eat that for lunch, I go to another fitting, and then I usually try and find an acai bowl somewhere, or a dragon fruit bowl, or I'll go to a market and go pick up some fresh figs or fresh berries or some sort of sweet fruit just my mid-afternoon snack. And then at night, up until recently, I was doing baked asparagus, baked Brussels sprouts, and stir frying. So I baked the Brussels sprouts, break the asparagus, and then I'd mix it in with cauliflower rice. Cooked on the skillet, and I'd eat that for dinner almost every single night. My roommate keeps asking me, she's like, "Are you bored of that stuff yet?" And I'm like, "Yes, absolutely, but I gotta do it." And then I met Casey Scott through Instagram. So I'm working with a homeopathic doctor. She's like, "Hey, you need to connect with Casey. He's all about liver rescue, medical medium. He's got some good information, and he's got a positive mindset." So I reached out to him, talked to him, and he's turned me on to potatoes. So now I incorporate potatoes into my dinner, but it's still pretty much the same routine every single day. And then on weekends, I still do celery juice. I still do the fruit. I still do the supplements. I don't do the salads. I just go straight to the acai bowl, and it's kind of like all fruit and fun over the weekends. But I don't deviate from the plan. The plan's working, it feels like, and I just don't deviate.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. So what else in addition to that? Because I know you're still running. I know you're grounding. I know you're getting yourself to the beach. Tell everybody about those also awesome things that you're doing in addition to the supplements, in addition to a spectacular medical medium inspired diet. What's the other shit?
So one post I saw on the Facebook group was all about how this guy's wife healed within 4 months, just exercising every day and then exposing yourself to sunlight every single day.
What? TSW?
What? Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So I reached out and called this guy, and I was like, "We need to talk. Like, tell me everything about sunlight and exercise." And he explained to me the benefits of sunlight. So then I started Googling and going down the rabbit hole of that. And I realized that I was not getting a lot of sun. So about 45 to maybe 60 days ago, I decided to every day after work go to the beach and walk on the beach. And I figured if I'm going to get sun, I might as well get grounded. So I also do a little bit about grounding, and I figured you're not going to walk on the beach with your shoes on, so I'll walk on the beach barefoot and in the shortest shorts possible. So I ordered some shorts that like barely cover my thighs, and I go out and I walk 45 minutes south and then 45 minutes north, and then at the end I just stand and soak up as much sun as possible all over my skin, and that helped a lot. I experienced a huge shift in healing since doing that, and it's just made me a believer that Mother Nature knows our body better than we do and better than the experts do, and the earth has everything that we need to heal. We just need to listen better. Yeah. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now. Let's see. I just started working with a new doctor, and he's a little bit on the other side of the Western medicine spectrum, and he sent me this device that reads my energy field. So it tells where the energy blockages are in my body and also in my thinking and my thoughts and my emotions. So we're working through that, and I just started working with him, so we're still kind of scratching the surface, but he's ordered me some new supplements that I'm starting. One's called ASEA, which is a cell signaling supplement. So it goes all the way down into your mitochondria, and whatever your mitochondria touches is what this goes all the way down to. And it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially it focuses the attention of your body's cells and where they go. And this is a rejuvenating formula to help regenerate more healthy, stronger skin. So we're attacking that aspect of it. And then he's also got me reading books, which is interesting. Like, what doctor asks you to read books, right? So he had me read The Four Agreements, which is a phenomenal book, and I finished that this week. And then he gave me this other book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and it talks about rediscovering the archetypes of the mature masculine male. And so we're trying to get in touch with emotional suppression that maybe I'm doing, or maybe that I've done in my life, and maybe any traumas or agreements that I've made in my mind that are manifesting themselves in my skin. Because if you think about it, what is topical steroids do. They suppress whatever symptoms. They don't heal your symptoms. They suppress it, and they just shove it right back under the rug. So the question is what am I doing to shove things under the rug? What emotions am I not dealing with? What traumas have I not properly dealt with? So I'm at this point now where I feel like I'm doing everything physically that I can possibly do. Like, I save my energy for healing. I'm eating fruits and vegetables every single day, organic, like clean, like all that. I'm sleeping every single night, 6 to 8 hours, all these different kinds of things. And I hit like this plateau. Like, what do I do now? Just wait? Like, I would just do this over and over and over again? Like, no, that's not me. I have to do something about it. So that's what's driving me to find other ways to heal. So I go to an acupuncturist once a week, and I get acupuncture. And this girl that I go to is phenomenal, which was referred to me through a colleague or like a client that I work with. He's like, dude, you got to go see my acupuncturist. She's amazing. She's a skin expert. And that's through that social media connection. So I found her. She is not your typical acupuncturist. Like, she sits there and listens to me. She asks me questions. Like, she's diving deeper into emotional stuff as well. And I'm just starting to scratch the surface of the emotional cause of this.
Yeah.
And how it affects the healing. And it's so crazy because some of the things that I've uncovered personally started back in my childhood. And they didn't manifest themselves in my skin until my late 20s, early 30s. And what did I do emotionally as I suppressed them? And what did I do physically? I suppressed them. So there's these crazy parallels that are just insane. And once you start peeling the layers back of these emotional things, there's a lot of stuff to uncover. And it goes beyond emotions, and it even goes into like soul and spirit and like just energy. Like it's a lot. And if you're not into this stuff, I'm sorry, but there's a real connection there. I'm still scratching the surface, like I said, but there's definitely some truth to all of that. And I'm working through it right now.
You know how incredible it is to be a woman in 2019 and hear a man in 2019 talking like that?
Nope.
Oh goodness, it's honestly so amazing, that it takes such a life experience to have this an emotional initiation, if you will. Do you know what I mean? Like, what else could have happened in your life to bring you to this place where it's like, we have to do that deep inner work, with that. So really, like, it's so amazing that this is the approach that you're taking to all of it. Like, my heart is just on fire, with that. So for you to be, a man in 2019, because I don't, at least in my experience, I don't see a lot of men who are reaching for this deep emotional work. And like, do you see a lot of this around you? How does this feel to be peeling back these layers of that there's so much more going on than what we just see at surface level, How has that been for you? Because you probably didn't know that that's what was going to start happening when you got into TSW. You weren't like, I'm going to do so much emotional work this fall. I'm going to pull myself apart energetically, right? Like,
yeah.
How was that?
Okay, so around the same time I started posting on Instagram also the same time I started looking at this whole experience differently.
Yeah.
Going out of the depression and dive bomb into just problems, and then turning it around and going, look, what can I do about it? What actions can I put forward to, make this better? Like, instead of looking at what I'm missing out on, instead of looking at what I don't have, what do I have control of? What is a blessing in disguise? What is the lesson in all of this? And, when you surrender to no control, you become part of the flow. And So once you're in that flow, it's kind of jostling at first. You're kind of like, whoa, what's going on? And you kind of have to take a minute before you get settled and you realize what's going on. And so that's kind of where at the point, that's where I'm at now. And, you know, it's definitely opening me up in a way that never would have happened before without this tragedy. And this is the biggest tragedy I've ever gone through. This is worse than divorce. This is worse than any physical injury I've had. And I've had quite a few broken bones and broken, you know, limbs and ligaments. This is by far the worst experience I've ever gone through. But this is also by far transitioning me into something completely different than what I was. And if I wasn't open to it, I could completely miss this opportunity.
You mean stay more so like stuck in the suffering, stuck in.
Right.
If I keep looking victims of the system, but you know, us holding that victim mentality sure isn't going to help us, right?
We are. That's interesting. Are we victims? Because technically, I did this to myself. I had issues in my skin. I went to the doctors. Yes, we trusted them, but I kind of blindly trusted them, you know, oh, sure. You say it's going to work. I'm going to put it on. Did I do due diligence and really check if that was really going to heal me? No. So I have to own my responsibility in that. I'm not saying I'm 100% responsible, and I'm not saying the doctor's completely off the hook, but I think it's really important to own your part in what's going on with me right now. Yeah. And once you do that, then you're able to move on to the next level. But until you do that, you'll never get to that next step. And if you keep looking at yourself like, oh, you know, it's me, like I'm missing out on this, like my life is being robbed. Like, yeah, you can easily think that, but use this as an opportunity to elevate yourself and find the bigger picture, find the bigger, deeper meaning in all of this. Yeah. At least that's my point of view. Excuse me, my point of view, and the way that I'm choosing to look at it now. And there's no stone that I'm going to leave unturned. I'm looking at this from an emotional aspect, a spiritual aspect, an energy aspect, as well as physical. So, and the deeper I go into it, the more it's like my magnetism is becoming stronger. And it's bringing me what I need at the moment I need it. And it's bringing me the people who I need, and maybe they need me. And it's working in a way that is just so beyond anything I could comprehend. And it's great. It's really awesome because what that does is it gives me a feeling of gratitude, and gratitude from all of that I see happening around me and within me. Gratitude is an elevated emotion. And I've been studying Dr. Joe Dispenza's work talking about becoming supernatural and you are the placebo. He talks about how the mind actually controls matter. You know, we think mind over matter. Oh, well, you know, if this is happening, we can overthink and we can make it go away. But what we think becomes an emotion, and an emotion can either bring us up or bring us down. And also what we think has a biological effect on our bodies. It affects our cells. You know, we've heard that your body regenerates, or cells regenerate themselves every 7 years or so. Well, your thoughts have an effect on that. And until you realize that, you can literally restructure your body, and you can restructure your emotions. And then when you feel gratitude, it puts you in a state of receiving. So when you feel thankful for everything and you feel grateful for healing and all that's happened, it allows more healing to come in. So that's the best way I can describe those two Dr. Joe Dispenza books. But you know, there's a lot of meat to this topic, and that's what I'm diving into right now. And it's been incredible, and it's it's not only healing me deeper emotionally, but it's also showing healing in my skin. And there's a lot of momentum happening right at this very moment.
That was so perfectly shared. That was so perfect. Thank you for all of that.
Yeah.
With all the ways that this is growing you, because clearly this experience is growing you tremendously. Who would you be, Luke, without this experience? Who would you be right now, do you think, if you were just on that same trajectory? Like, to be able to look back in the ways of like previous to this growth.
I'd be a human on autopilot, going through life, going to my job, hanging out with my friends. But I feel like I'd be just a shell of a person, and my life would only be skin deep. You know, things wouldn't probably affect. Things wouldn't be able to penetrate and affect my heart. Things wouldn't be able to affect my emotions, and I would not be aware. And I've always been pretty in tune, I guess, with my body, so I would know what's going on with my body, but the struggle and the roadblock has always been with my emotions, and this has just been a catalyst in making me tear down those walls, whereas before you'd look at it and be like, wow, that's a big wall, I don't even want to try. But now I don't have a choice. I will get that wall down no matter what, because my life depends on it. My skin, my body, my well-being, my happiness, my presence, my energy, and without this experience, I would have walked into a room and people would have just not even noticed me, right? Not everybody, but now I think I'm getting into this place where my energy is resonating louder and further and broadcasting stronger. And so now I feel like I'm getting to a place where I can walk into a room and people notice me without even seeing me because my energy is there. And that's what I'm really trying to hone in on, and just make my vibration and my frequency and my compassion for people suffering with this, and just people in life. Like, we all have a TSW that we're going through, right? It doesn't have to be what I'm going through specifically, but people are going through stuff, and I don't want to be someone with blinders on that just doesn't see it and only sees what's good for me, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm working towards, so that when I walk into a room, there's a connection with the people that I'm supposed to connect with, because we're on that same frequency, that same vibration, that same level of awareness, consciousness, all of it. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Sense. So, biggest lessons for you as a person during this experience, because and we don't know how far through the experience we are yet, but you're stacking all of the odds in your favor to expedite the process and journey as well as possible. But like, at this stage, biggest lessons that you've learned going through this incredibly intense process.
Be open to the unknown, because you don't know it all. No one around us knows it all. And there is something much larger going on. And it's so much bigger than us and our suffering at the moment. That wasn't an easy lesson to come to, because it's hard to break out of, well, I'm still in pain, I'm still this. But there's a bigger plan in place, and coming to that realization has been the biggest lesson for me, and learning how to surrender to that. And in a way, it's weird, but in a way that turns down the intensity of my symptoms when I've come to that realization, when I've come to the moment that, you know what, all right, give me what I need at the moment I need it, take me to where I'm supposed to go, introduce me to the people that I'm supposed to meet, and bring me the healing that I'm supposed to have. When you let go of that control willingly, it's crazy the amount of healing energy that comes right back at you.
Amazing.
But you'll never realize that unless you do it.
Yeah. Amazing. I apologize if you can hear my dogs suddenly barking. So with all of this, like, I mean, to me, your message is supportive of people that are going through this. This is a message that is supportive and warning in a loving way to people that are currently on topical steroids. You know, like if there was a message for people that are currently using topical steroids, whether it's a child or a loved one or a friend or somebody themselves, what would you suggest? If you could give any guidance or wisdom to, you know, people that are not yet in our shoes, but, you know, if somebody's going to go through topical steroid withdrawal, there's nothing that they can do to skip that stage of healing. And we know that it's a tremendous stage.
I would just say, don't sit on the sidelines to your own game. You know, I mean, there's a lot of talk about like, oh, TSW warriors, we're warriors and all that stuff. And I see that term thrown around just so like candidly and just like freely. But what is a warrior? A warrior is on the front line. A warrior is figuring out ways to defeat the enemy. A warrior is learning their enemy. A warrior is, skipping nights of sleep to win the war, not the battle. We have a battle every single day, and a warrior doesn't just fight a battle. A warrior is fighting a war. And I think a lot of people, this might piss some people off, but I think a lot of people going through TSW are just wearing the uniform, but they're not actually warriors. Sure, you're suited up. Sure, you're on the team, but are you being a warrior? Because if you can walk to the bathroom or you can walk to the living room, then you can go walking on the beach and get some sunlight and get some healing done. You know, you don't like, it pisses me off if you're just going to sit there and just go through it day by day by day and not change your program. Like, get a plan in place. I don't care if it's eating 10 cheeseburgers a day. Try it. See if it works. If it doesn't, move on. Yeah. But don't just sit there and be like, oh, I'm itchy. Oh, I can't. I'm just going to quit my job. I'm going to go leave of abstinence. Like, don't just take it. Like, if you're in a boxing match, you're not going to just cover up and just let the other guy punch you over and over and over again. Come up with a plan. Be proactive with your healing and don't discount anything. If you listen properly to your body and your heart and everything that's going on around you, the answers are there. Yeah. The answers are actually within each person, and each person has their own answers. And we're so conditioned to shut off those ears. So listening to your body, your soul, your spirit, your emotions, all of it, and then acting upon that information that you get would be my message. Like, don't just sit and take it, because that's a waste of healing that could be happening. So that would be my advice to anyone. Read information about it. Talk to veterans who have healed. Try different things. And I'm not saying try different lotions. Don't do a different lotion every day. Like, that's relief. That's a battle. That's a daily battle. Think long term. Think of the war. What's going to get you to the finish line? Not just each stage of the race. What's going to get you to the finish line? And if you focus on each stage, it's going to take you longer. Yeah. But if you focus on the finish line and figure out the fastest, most efficient way there, that's how you beat everyone. And that's how you beat TSW. Perfect. You are so spiritually resilient, you know, and it probably wasn't this way the whole way through this, right? Was there any like certain moment that you gained this perspective or gained this strength, or is this just you as a person? Because like, we know the depressing times, we know the nearly suicidal times of this. Oh boy. Because I mean, you've honestly, and you probably don't know this yet, but you know, you've kind of given me a spiritual kick in the ass to get my game on even better with this. Because, you know, there can be moments of just like sitting in this and being like, oh, this is my life. Everything is so uncomfortable. You know the stories that play in your head. So
what happened to let you be like, no, we're going to get through this as quick as possible? Is it just the type of conscious material that you're putting into you? You know, for the other people that are going through TSW with us, who, you know, maybe they're just really stuck in the depression. Maybe they don't, you know, have that stimuli around them. So for you, like, biggest things, is it like medical medium, Dr. Joe Dispenza or Dr. Bruce Lipton? Like, what can people use to really gain this shift in perspective, other than hopefully listening to you talk in this podcast? You know, because you're the most upbeat person and most candid and compassionate and vulnerable with it that I've witnessed so far, which is why, you know, I knew that us creating a conversation, that there'd be so much medicine and wisdom and magic to come through you, because I mean, you emit this radiance, even though you're currently in, you know, a stage of zombie. You know? So yeah, so sorry, question is like, what do you think people could utilize to create more resilience of spirit, more connection with soul, to actually gain like hope through this journey, and knowing that it's like, no, we can move through this quicker. You know, we're not sure of the timeline, but of course we can do the supportive things so that our body's going to get through this easier, a little bit less scathed, you know, and then the emotional, spiritual repercussions of that also.
That's
Sorry, you're a strong man, you know, and I know that there's so much wisdom in there. There's so much wisdom in there.
That's a good question. The first thing that came to mind that really kind of opened my perspective up was when I tried ayahuasca, to be honest. That brought me to an awareness that I've never experienced anything like that before.
That wasn't during TSW, right?
It was.
Okay, that's an intense thing to go through while you're going through an intense thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I was searching out every alternative medication besides medicine to try and heal. So I tried ayahuasca. I tried, you know, mushrooms. I tried combo, which is a poisonous frog slime that's injected into your skin. I mean, I tried a bunch of different things, and ayahuasca really kind of opened up my perspective, and kind of, it's a whole experience to explain on its own, but the long story short is it kind of showed me what was behind the curtain of reality, and it showed me how much power I have, and it also showed me how much I could be grateful for, and that kind of shifted my perspective to thinking of what I don't have, from that to being thankful for what I do have. And that shift also happened when I was reading Joe Dispenza's work, and he talks about elevated emotions and just focusing on gratitude, focusing on love, focusing on these emotions and feelings that make you feel better. Just, you know, like, I'm thankful that I could still go to work. I'm thankful that I can still pay my bills. Like, those things tend to fall under the wayside, like when we're focusing on, oh, my skin is so itchy, we can't think of anything else. And so when we're thinking of the symptom and the condition, we're not thankful. And shifting my mindset and shifting my emotions towards that has really been the biggest shift for me, emotionally and spiritually. And it's taught me the most, because when I walk around and I'm feeling feelings of gratitude and they're genuine, it's not just, oh, I'm thankful for the sky, I'm thankful for the car, I'm thankful for like my Frappuccino, like what? Not that. It's articulating what you're feeling rather than just, oh, I'm thankful for, you know, clean water. Like, you can't just think of something you're thankful for. You have to let it kind of like bubble up in you, and then you have to let it come out and verbalize that. That is like gratitude. Not gratitude as a thought, but gratitude as a feeling. And learning to get in that state over and over and over again is just like a daily dose of spiritual medicine. So that would be one of the biggest things that I could say for people, is focus on what you have and still have, and focus on that gratitude, and that's gonna allow you to receive more energy. And Start thinking about what your life is going to be like when you're healed. Don't look at yourself as suffering. You know, I know it's so hard because you look in the mirror, you look like a zombie, you look like you're, 92 years old, and it's hard to not see that and not get depressed when you see yourself in the mirror and see your body deteriorating. But look past that, focus on the healing, and be thankful that one day you're going to be healed, because it's going to bring it to you faster. It's like manifestation. You put it out there and the universe brings it right back to you. You can't determine when, but if you act like you've already received it, like, I'm already healed, thank you, I can't wait to spend time with my family, my friends again, like all those great things that you plan to do, you're just pulling that destiny closer to you.
Amazing. And yes to all of that. I had no idea that you played with ayahuasca during this experience. And I say play only because when I had my experiences with ayahuasca back in 2011, it was a playful teacher, but a very hard teacher. Is there anything else like specific about that, because she's such a good teacher, that were like really good medicinal wisdom drops for you that you feel like sharing, that feel related? She has a way of showing you what needs to heal or change your work, right? And it would be so interesting to go through that experience while being in topical steroid withdrawal.
Yeah. The biggest takeaway that I got from ayahuasca was that you experience whatever channel you subscribe to. So if you subscribe to a victim mentality, you're going to be a victim. If you subscribe to a warrior mentality, you're going to be a warrior. If you subscribe to compassion and emotional expression, that you're going to get that. But it doesn't happen overnight. You have to plant the seed, and you have to water it. You have to cultivate it. You have to take care of it, and you have to watch it grow and become stronger and become taller and become bigger and larger until it eventually starts producing fruit in your life. So the biggest thing is when I was on ayahuasca, I was just seeing all these different realities that I could have lived or could have been in or could go down this road or that road. And it all boiled down to a choice. And the choice was mine. Here you go, Luke. This is your life. You can do whatever you want with it. And that's something right there that hit me with the most gratitude. Like, this is my life. Yes, I'm suffering under something that's under not like that. I can't control how it's here now. Like I got to deal with it. How it got here is irrelevant. Where it's going to go from here is in my control. I have the power of this moment, and I have the power of the next moment. That's what I can control. And so I started taking advantage of every opportunity to heal based off that revelation that I have the choice to do whatever I want with my life. And if I subscribe to the reality that I'm sick, I'm going to be sick. If I subscribe to the reality that I'm healed, I'm going to be healed. It's going to happen. I just can't determine when. That's up to the universe or God, whatever you call it.
Amazing. You know how the lessons just, at least in my experience, like they keep coming. Do you kind of feel that way, as in like, oh, I just had a big aha, and then it's like, okay, now this lesson is experiencing itself, and it just keeps unfolding like that? Is it kind of similar for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can you feel like what the current lesson is that you're maybe working on right now that isn't complete? Or can you feel the ones that are coming up? Because you know that it's never like, oh yeah, I have plateaued at this degree of understanding. I'm good. We're just staying here. Consciousness is great. Like it's, we're always in this ebb and flow of progression. So what's next? Does your heart feel? If you want to share, is there any kind of like current struggle in the body or in the mind with where we're currently at, even though we've done all of this growth and all of this exploration?
Yeah. I mean, I always have to remind myself, this is a lesson that I constantly have to deal with, is that there is no resting place. There's no finish line. Like you don't just get to this. emotional maturity or this spiritual maturity, and you just all of a sudden got it all. Once you get there, there's a whole other puzzle that you got to figure out. And it just keeps going, it keeps going, keeps going. And so I've mentally had to prepare myself and just let go of that idea that I can eventually get there and just be done. It's always going to be, there's always going to be work involved. It's always going to need tending, cultivating, and watering in order for me to grow and get to where I need to be. But one thing that I'm just really, really focused on right now is diving deeper into the emotions and uncovering traumas and agreements that I've made throughout my entire life that are bottled up, locked up, and hidden somewhere inside that I was talking to my brother last night, and we were kind of discussing this a little bit. And I told him that I've taken all my emotions and I've locked them up into a box and I buried them somewhere deep inside, and I forgot where I buried them. So I've got this Pandora's box full of emotions that I need to let out. They're screaming and I can hear it, but I'm not in touch with it because I've suppressed it so much that I'm just so disconnected. And, a lot of people talk about like, well, Luke, you're so passionate, you're so aware. And yeah, like those things are there, but there's a depth that I'm missing. And like I said, I feel that those emotions being locked away and hidden, like I said, I don't know where they're at yet. I still need to uncover those, and I'm searching. And if you're trying to search for a buried treasure without a map, who knows how long that's going to take. So that's what it's like, and that's what I'm focusing on. And I'm hoping that the people that I'm working with, the people that are attracted to me, and the people that I'm attracted to throughout this process are the right people to help me get there. It's like they're the ones pointing, check that direction. And hopefully if they're pointing there and they're guiding me and they're of the universe and of God, they're guiding me in that right direction. So I just have to have faith that I will uncover it, and that it will also bring physical healing as well as emotional healing to a level that is beyond my expectation.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And with that, you've grown so much as a human and grown so much as a man through this experience that, I would assume that your discernment must be so strong as far as where your body and soul wants to take you at this point. Has that been an intuitive skill that's really become honed during this process also and developed?
I'm going in that direction. Yeah. I wouldn't say that I've mastered it, but
none of us master it yet.
Yeah. Yes. But as soon as I started on the liver rescue, is when I decided that I was going to start listening to my body. Your body sends more signals to your brain than your brain does to your body. And once I started listening to what my body was saying, it started telling me the right things. This is what we need. This is what's wrong. And it's a small voice, and it's a skill that you have to develop. And you have, when you first start doing that, it's like you're listening to a silent room. Nothing's going on. But then you hear a little whisper over here. You're like, wait, what is that? And you just have to be open. You have to be patient, and you have to give yourself grace because you're going to stumble. No one gets on a bike the first time and starts pedaling wheelies down the street. It doesn't happen. So the same thing with intuition and getting in tune with yourself. Be patient, be quiet, be still, let it come to you, and be gentle with yourself when it does. And once, you get your first little message, and you get that next little voice, and then it becomes stronger, and you become more confident, and you start to decipher those messages better and easier. And yeah, so 6 months is not a long time. I've always been pretty aware of my reality, but not aware of my intuition until this last 6 months.
Amazing. Biggest gift in this process for you? Or let's pull out the tidbits of what of this journey can you be most grateful for, or are you most grateful for?
That my ego is being slaughtered every single day. And to be honest, that's the greatest thing ever.
Go on.
Well, I mean, your ego likes to have control. Your ego likes to feel like it's on top of everything, and it's there. You know, it's smarter than everyone else. It's better looking than everyone else, and you know, it's got it all under control. But you look in the mirror sometimes, and you scare the shit out of yourself. Your ego gets scared too, and it doesn't know what to do. And then when you start challenging your ego with, you know, going against what everyone suggests, like, oh, just put lotion on it, oh, go back to the doctor, like, you know, you have to have a resilience against that, and you have to have like a bullshit meter, and you've got to have that bullshit meter be true, like it's got to be accurate, so that and you've got to have the balls to follow that bullshit meter and go against your ego and let the ego go and just say, you know what, you no longer serve me, and I'm not you, and you're not me. And the detachment from my ego has probably been one of the biggest blessings of this whole experience. But it's still scary because you're kind of like a lobster without its shell now. So now you're vulnerable. Now you're out exposed, and that ego is kind of like a protective layer. But just like a lobster, you're growing, and you can't grow within that shell. You need a bigger shell, so you've got to leave and find a bigger one. And I don't know if that means getting a bigger ego, but you've got to find home and comfort somewhere else, because this ego is no longer serving you anymore. And so I'm still working that out for myself, but the ego is still got its hooks in me a little bit. But I'm working on just taking them off. Finger by finger until it's completely gone.
Of course, one at a time. So the where is your current home then? Where is that place of safety during this transition? Where, because it's like the shell is broken off, you can't fit into that shell anymore. We're raw, we're vulnerable. Everybody can see exactly what's happening on us. So where does your comfort and security come from, since it's not the clothes that you wear, it's not the skin on your face, it's not the fancy hair on your head or the BMX biking, you know, it's your security can only be you at this point, right? And is it just connection to God, connection to source? Like, where are you growing your strength from?
Faith.
Yeah.
That everything is happening the way it's supposed to, how it's supposed to, and when it's supposed to. I want to say it's me, but it's so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than me. And yeah, just that's where I'm drawing. That's where I'm drawing all of my confidence from, and my motivation is that I was put on this path. I didn't get myself here. So that's where it is.
Yeah. With that, if, you know, I wonder how one day, because, you know, so many of us are going through this, and it's a path that we're put on, a path that can either break us or strengthen us into something really amazing. But as far as, you know, the medical industry goes, like I have hopes and intentions that somehow we can move mountains eventually. But I don't have any idea what that looks like right now. You know that we've got, you know, a documentary out for us, right? Preventable Doc.
Yeah.
But as far as, you know, think of all the different, whether it's a pharmacist or a doctor or a physician's assistant, or, you know, all the people in those fields who they're not doing the bad work. Their intentions aren't to create these situations in our lives that last 1 to 4 years, you know, but what would you say to somebody in that position, you know?
Like a medical professional?
Yeah. Because, I mean, you know, a lot of this cycle is going to change when they have awareness, because corticosteroids are still going to be made. Prednisone is still going to be made. You know, big pharma is still big pharma right now. However, you know, a lot of it, I think, is going to come down to people becoming more aware of the consequences of drugs, of actually having informed consent and doing their due diligence. But then also, like, I'm hoping that some responsibility is going to land on whoever it is prescribing, or whoever it is that's looking at TSW rashes and thinking it's more eczema. You know what I mean? How do you work in that situation?
Oh,
And not that I want to, go away from the spiritual talk with this and go more to the
Yeah.
3D, but, now it's like, okay, so we're in these situations and we're growing through them and we're grateful for what we're learning, but how do we stop this from happening to more people?
So I've sat with this question a lot, and try to identify exactly what my role is in this. And I've decided for me personally that it's not my burden to go and educate the entire medical system and the medical professionals out there. What I can do, and I think that I think has a good impact. I don't know if it's the best or the greatest, but I need to educate as many people about this product, topical steroids, as possible, because if they know, then they don't even need to go get the doctor's ill-advised diagnosis or be misdiagnosed. And then that stops the doctor from getting paid because they're not getting the steroids anymore, or they're not able to prescribe, and then it stops the steroids from being used. So the steroid companies feel the effect. So I feel that the more awareness and education that I can bring to this issue and to the people who are suffering, and then also the people who aren't suffering, if I can prevent anyone from going through this, my job is done for that person. But I've already had numerous people throw steroids away that they were using for whatever. I've had people tell me that they've gone through topical steroid withdrawal by themselves without even knowing what it was, and they ultimately stopped using steroids just out of consciousness. They knew something was wrong, and they went through it 1.5 years by themselves. I've had people, who were considering using it because their kids were suffering. That's already at least 5 people that are not going to go through this. And that's amazing. And not to mention the people who are going through it, who are now aware, like they've learned themselves, but they learn new information from me, and I learned new information from them. So we are passing around gold nuggets, which is great. But that's what I feel my role is in that. Because I've tried to go to both of my dermatologists and my naturopath and explain to them what's going on, and it's like just banging your head against a brick wall. One dermatologist told me, he's like, I've been a dermatologist for 30 years. This doesn't exist. I still show up to his office about once a month and show him the different stages. And I go, this is not eczema. I just want to show you. I'm not paying for this appointment, but I'm just showing you. And then I've gone to my dermatologist, or not dermatologist, my naturopath. And I actually have a lot of hope for, because she had never heard of it. And so she's been really receptive, and that's been giving me a lot of hope, because the way I look at that is I don't want to educate her, but I do want to give her the necessary info so that she can prevent this happening to other patients. She's going to see thousands of patients throughout her career. And if even if it's just 1% to 2% of those people who don't have to go through topical steroid withdrawal, that started because I was able to give that information to her. So I'm going to educate, but I'm not going to go and take on the whole medical industry or the whole topical steroid withdrawal or topical steroid companies. That's just too big of a mountain for me to handle, and it's already sucked up too much of my life. Like, I want to get back to doing the things that I really enjoy doing, and not because I have to do them. Yeah. But yeah, does that answer your question?
That's a perfect answer to the question.
Okay.
Honestly, and I hadn't seen it from that perspective yet, but I think that that's absolutely perfect, because, the medical system, it's so backwards and upside down and distorted already in its ways that, of course, our energies, if we're educating the public, that should have far more effect from a healing place, from a place of expanding consciousness, from a place of supporting one another as humans, right? So I think that that's perfect. And I really appreciate hearing that right now.
Yeah, and the medical industry is a business. And until they can figure out a way to profit off of this, they're not going to help.
No.
They're not going to acknowledge, oh, yeah, we, topical steroids caused this.
Right.
What do you want us to do about it?
Unless they can come up with a cure that they can monetize, right? Which
exactly.
We know that they're making any cures for this.
Yeah. So until that happens, but I feel like if you could starve that lifeline that feeds them by us all, everyone just runs to the doctors. I got a red spot. I got an itchy spot. I got this. And we all just take the doctor's word for it. Like, that's where it comes to education, is like, we need to wake people up so that they they're doing more due diligence about themselves and doing and knowing more about their own bodies before they just go and hope that a doctor has a quick fix. That's not the answer. Just, just because they wear a white coat doesn't mean they know everything. And sometimes I think people forget that.
For you, if you're approached by anybody that's like just starting this path, so they don't have to be in TSW, but just like anybody that has prescribed to the medical ideologies, and somebody who's trying to come to this place of like, okay, I want to get my body well. I want to get my consciousness well. I want to get my mind well. I know that drugs aren't going to be what cultivates that new reality for me. Is there anything that you've come across so far that would be like a really beautiful starting point for anybody that you would suggest, whether it's a book or a YouTube video, or what's a good starting point?
For somebody just about to enter topical steroid withdrawal?
Oh, I mean, whether they're going through endometriosis or infertility, or anybody that's just willing to finally put down the mentality of trusting the establishment, thinking that they know exactly what they're doing and that it's all right. Somebody that's just like, hey, I want to get well with myself on all levels.
First thing I would say is probably, it's actually quite difficult for a lot of people, but I think it's the most effective, is you need to get your diet in order. And I'm not saying you need to cut out everything, but you need to look at what your diet is doing to your overall body balance. Are you putting the foods in your body that are going to heal your gut, that are encouraging the liver to do its job best, the spleen, the kidneys, all those things, your lungs, are they functioning properly? If you can get your body functioning properly, then it makes it that much easier for you to start to align your spirituality and your emotions. But if you don't get all your body running on all cylinders, then you're starting at a disadvantage, and it makes the connection that much harder to happen. Like it doesn't happen as well. So clear out the body, cleanse the body first, and then start focusing on the mind, and then that leads right into spirituality, in my opinion.
I'd have to completely agree. That's perfect. The Medical Medium book, to you, is that a good starting point for people? Like, was that a really good eye opener?
Yeah, for me it was. I mean, it's just literally organic fruits and vegetables. And the one thing that was the biggest revelation for me after reading The Liver Rescue was the time of day. So Anthony William, his whole thing is don't consume any fat before noon, because fat is what slows the liver down, and your liver has two stages: cleaning and then detoxifying. So it'll cleanse the body and just get everything out, and then it'll detoxify and pull all the negative and poisonous things that we ingest, pulls those things out, and it protects us from those things. But then at night, it eliminates. So when we consume fat in the morning, it slows our body down, and that just has a whole effect on our mindset, on our mood, on our energy levels. So the time of day of when you eat things, I never even crossed my mind until this book. And then also, I have essentially cut out all animal products during this time of healing, because those things I found for me personally slow me down. I'm not against eating meat, but I notice that when I do eat meat, I get sluggish, I get a little more tired, my body has less energy, and the foods that I'm eating that are based on this Liver Rescue book, they don't slow me down. They charge me right back up. And so I've come to learn what foods charge me up and what foods slow me down. And so why would I ever want to slow down in healing? So I eliminated those foods based off everything I'm learning from that. And I think it's a great starting point and it's not that complicated. People get so into it, like, oh, well, he's just trying to sell books, and everyone's trying to sell books. If you wrote a book, you're trying to sell it. Like, he's helping so many people, and it's using what has already been on this planet since the beginning of time. Fruits, vegetables, plants. Nature. It goes back to Mother Nature. Mother Nature knows what we need. We just need to listen. And Anthony William is just the mouthpiece that's speaking out for nature through spirit.
Perfect. Perfect. This has been so good to hear you share all of this, truly. How are you feeling right now? Is this the most that you've shared, like in one chunk on the subject?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. How are you feeling through all this?
I feel good. I feel good. I mean, I feel like every time I get to share some information about this, whether it's my experience or information that I've learned that I hope can help somebody else, it's just cleaning my bucket a little bit more. Eventually I'll get the bucket completely clean so I can start fresh and have a new body and a new mind and all of that. But every time I get to express and share a little bit more, it just feels like the weight on my shoulders is getting a little bit less and my healing is getting a little bit closer. And like I said, that's all the momentum that seems to be coming my way as I open up and surrender to this whole process. The more is given to me, and it's so the more it feels like the more I'm able to give. Like it's this flow. Things are given to me, I have to give them away, because if I hold them, then it starts a backup process, and then I can't handle everything that's coming my way. So gotta let it flow. Let it go. Don't hold on to it, and be in the moment, be in the flow.
Okay. I'm so grateful that you've taken this much time with me, truly, to have this conversation, because I mean, this conversation is necessary for my heart and my journey, and surely for other people as well. So is there any parting message, or is there anything that you wanted to touch on that we haven't, that is important feeling?
Yeah, if you are suffering from TSW, or anybody who's listening to this is suffering from topical steroid withdrawal, or you haven't started topical steroid withdrawal, do not be ashamed. Do not be afraid, and connect with as many people who are going through this as you can, and connect to the people that you feel drawn to. You're drawn to that person for a reason. And if you want to ask them a question, ask them a question. If you want to share something with them, share something with them. But this is not your fault. Even though we applied the creams to our bodies and we were trying to suppress any skin condition we were dealing with, it's still not our fault. And so don't beat yourself up emotionally and mentally while your body is suffering physically. It doesn't make it any better. In fact, it makes it way worse, and it makes the suffering physically way worse. So reach out to anybody and everybody that you feel a connection with, and honor those connections. Yeah. And if you are starting TSW, don't try and expect the worst, because it'll exceed your expectations and you will not be ready for it. So you might as well just get started, pull the Band-Aid off, and just jump right in.
And it's okay that it takes more than 6 months, right?
Unfortunately, yes. But just jump right in and get the clock started, and don't go back to steroids. I've seen some people get healed and then they use it once and then they go right back to square one, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You have so much more to offer to this world and to people and yourself, to be put back into that prison of topical steroid withdrawal.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, especially since that's how I ended up back here, but thank you. So you're going to keep making educational content on your Instagram about this. You're going to keep documenting your journey, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, I am. I mean, I don't really have a plan with that. I put stuff up whenever I feel like it needs to be said. But I try not to just overload, my Instagram with just stuff that's going on. Like, oh, hey, here's my arm today. Like, it's not about my symptoms. It's about spreading awareness and healing and getting people closer to that end game. of topical steroids. So yeah, whenever I feel the desire or the need to share something, I definitely put it out there. But I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to create. I don't want to create noise. I want to create good information that people can really trust and depend on and learn from.
Yes, and I feel like you do that very well already. Like in any of your videos where you're talking, you were sharing a lot of wisdom and helpful approaches and like hacks for it, but you're also sharing so much optimism about it. So like you got to keep that up. Even for my sake, you got to keep that up. So where can people find you?
So the Instagram account that I use for the documenting of topical steroids is at Luke Jacobsma, Jacobsma, on Instagram. And then I'm on Facebook as well, but I don't really post much on there. It's all through the Instagram, really.
Okay, perfect. Well, then in the show notes, we will put a link to connect to your Instagram. And also, I was thinking, let's link up some of the supportive resources that you've been using. So I'll put like medical medium book in there. And also maybe if there's any really good Dr. Joe Dispenza or like Bruce Lipton videos that you have, I would love to add those too, just to be like really good resources for people. And Luke, thank you so much for all of this time. The energy that you exude and the vitality, even though, you know, we're balls deep in this process, you know, you have so much grace with this. And I am so grateful that we've made this connection. Truly.
Oh,
like,
thank you. Me too. I'm so glad.
A lot already. And I'm sure that even, you know, us creating this content and everything that you're already creating, you're going to be like, this is in so much service to humanity. You know, even for the people that aren't necessarily going through this or the people that might be, I really hope that they can feel all of the, you know, the wisdom and gems that you've laid throughout this entire conversation. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you. I mean, I've learned a lot through this, and this has been a cool experience. I'm so thankful that you had me on your podcast and being the first guest talking about topical steroid withdrawal. It's a serious issue that needs to be spoken about, and it needs to be spoken loudly. And hopefully this gets out to a lot of people and people can share it and learn from it and heal from it. Ultimately, I mean, awareness is one thing, but stopping people from suffering currently is also huge. And it touches me really deeply. And I want to help people heal from this, and not just with encouragement. I want to find real testable ways that help people get healed. And it's so much deeper than just changing your diet or just walking outside in the sunlight. There's so much that goes into it. And I want to charge people up to make sure that they're ready to take on that responsibility and take on that burden and do it with confidence and know that they got support in their corner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And will you come back in however much time as you want and share with us like the new lessons and the new protocols, you know, as the journey progresses? Will you come back and share with me again?
Of course.
Okay, good.
Of course. It'll be fun.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for this time. I'm forever grateful for your journey. And I'm so grateful to know a gentleman like you also going through this process. So thank you for everything that you've shared with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's been so fun.
Okay, great. And so we will do this again soon. And all of the good little tidbits will be in show notes for anybody that's curious more about his journey. Okay?
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Luke.
Yeah. See you later.
Thank you.